The stage lights shimmered across the massive theater of America's Got Talent, the audience buzzing with excitement, laughter, and chatter. The judges were in their seats, Simon Cowell with his usual serious expression, Heidi Klum smiling warmly, Sofia Vergara radiant as always, and Howie Mandel tapping his fingers on the table. Suddenly, the stage doors opened slowly, and two elderly Filipinos stepped into the spotlight. Their movements were gentle, a bit slow, but full of grace and humility. The man, wearing a simple barong Tagalog, and the woman in a modest floral dress, held each other's hands for support as they reached the center of the stage. Simon squinted a little, as if curious. "Good evening," he said, his tone calm but slightly skeptical. The man smiled shyly, his wrinkles deepening around his eyes. "Good evening, Sir Simon, and everyone," he replied with a faint accent. "We are very happy to be here." The audience chuckled softly at his warmth. "What are your names?" Simon asked. The woman stepped forward with a proud but gentle voice. "I am Lola Mercy, and this is my best friend, Lolo Ben. We came all the way from Cebu City, Philippines." The crowd clapped immediately, cheering at the mention of the Philippines. "Cebu," someone shouted from the back, and both of them laughed like children. "How old are you?" Howie asked playfully. Lolo Ben grinned. "I am 68, and she is 67, she still thinks she's 25, he teased. The audience laughed loudly, and even Simon cracked a little smile. Simon leaned back in his chair, intrigued. "And what made you decide to audition for America's Got Talent?" Lola Mercy took a deep breath, her eyes shining under the lights. "When we were young, we used to sing together in the church choir. But life got busy, and dreams faded. Our children told us we were too old to try again. But we wanted to show them that it's never too late to dream, even when your hair turns white." The audience grew silent for a moment, touched by her words. Simon nodded slowly. "That's beautiful," he said softly. "So, what are you going to sing for us tonight?" Lolo Ben smiled. "We will sing The Prayer. It's a song that always reminded us of hope and love, and the power of friendship." Simon raised his eyebrows, impressed by the song choice. "That's a tough one," he remarked. Heidi smiled encouragingly. "Good luck," she said gently. The lights dimmed, and the soft piano intro began. At first, there was a slight tremor in Lolo Ben's voice, like the fragile start of something uncertain. But as Lola Mercy joined in, her tone pure and clear, something magical started to happen. Their voices blended perfectly, strong, emotional, and full of experience. The camera panned across the judges. Simon's eyebrows lifted, Heidi placed a hand on her chest, Sophia's eyes shimmered. The crowd was silent, no laughter now, just awe. The harmony of their voices carried decades of stories. Of love, hardship, and resilience. As they reached the chorus, the emotion in their performance filled the entire theater. It wasn't just a song, it was a memory sung out loud. Lolo Ben's eyes closed as he hit a high note, tears beginning to form. Lola Mercy looked at him lovingly, her voice steady as ever. The crowd leaned in as if not wanting to miss a single note. When the final note rang out, their hands clasped together, trembling slightly, the entire hall stood up in thunderous applause. Simon's face softened into a smile. He didn't speak immediately. The two Filipinos stood there, catching their breath, overwhelmed by the reaction. The confetti hadn't fallen yet, but it already felt like a victory. For Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy, two voices from Cebu had just touched the heart of America, and for the first time in years, they felt young again. As the last note of "The Prayer" faded into the air, a deep silence filled the America's Got Talent theater. It was one of those rare moments when the audience didn't even want to breathe, afraid to break the beauty that had just happened. Then, all at once, the hall erupted into wild applause and cheers. People stood from their seats, clapping, shouting, and even wiping tears from their eyes. The camera panned across the crowd, couples holding hands, families smiling, and young fans waving small Philippine flags they had brought to support fellow countrymen. Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy stood frozen in disbelief, their hands still clasped together. The lights glowed warmly on their faces as the audience continued to cheer for nearly a full minute. Heidi Klum was the first to speak, her eyes wide and voice trembling slightly. "You two just gave us something so special," she said, smiling sincerely. "I was completely moved. The way you looked at each other while singing, that connection, that love, it made me feel every single word." Sofia Vergara leaned forward with her usual sparkle. "I love stories like this," she said excitedly. "It doesn't matter how old you are, if you have that fire inside you, it never goes away. You brought your hearts to this stage." The audience agreed with loud cheers. Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy exchanged a look, both tearing up but smiling at the same time. Then Simon, who had been quiet, finally leaned toward his mic. The hall slowly hushed again. Everyone was waiting for his words. He folded his arms and looked at the duo thoughtfully. "Can I be honest?" he began, his British accent calm and measured. "When you first walked onto this stage, I didn't know what to expect. You both looked nervous, and I thought maybe this would just be cute." The audience laughed softly, and even Lolo Ben chuckled. But then, Simon continued, "You opened your mouths, and the entire room changed. You reminded us what this show is about: heart, courage, and passion that comes from life experience." Lola Mercy held her hand over her heart, whispering a quiet "thank you" as her eyes welled with tears. Simon nodded and smiled kindly. "Lola Mercy, your voice is angelic. And Lolo Ben, your tone, your emotion, it's like you've lived every line of that song. It was absolutely beautiful." Howie added warmly, "You two didn't just sing, you told a love story without even needing words. It felt like watching a real moment between two souls who never gave up on their dreams." By now, the crowd was chanting, "Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer!" Some waved tiny Philippine flags, others shouted, "Cebu pride," in excitement. Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy stood there, both crying, as they looked out over the sea of faces cheering them on. The stage lights made the tears on their cheeks glisten like tiny diamonds. Simon smiled again, turning to the other judges. "You can feel it, can't you?" he said softly. This performance wasn't about fame or competition. It was about love, and showing the world that true talent doesn't fade with age. He looked back at the duo and said, "You've done something very powerful tonight. You've inspired millions, especially those who think they're too old to dream again." The audience clapped once more, slower now, more emotional. It wasn't just applause, it was gratitude. As the lights dimmed slightly and the judges' smiles glowed under the golden reflections, Lolo Ben squeezed Lola Mercy's hand and whispered in Filipino, "Kaya pala hindi pa tayo tapos kumanta." So this is why we weren't done singing yet. And with that, everyone knew, something unforgettable had just happened on that stage. For a brief moment, the America's Got Talent stage stood still, lights glowing softly, the audience waiting in suspense. Simon Cowell looked down at his desk, fingers lightly tapping, as if lost in thought. The golden reflection of the stage shimmered in his eyes. Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy stood together, their faces still flushed from emotion, their hearts pounding. They could feel the energy of the crowd, a wave of love and admiration washing over them. Simon finally looked up, and the hall went silent. "You know what?" he said slowly, his tone thoughtful but warm. "I've been doing this show for many years. I've seen thousands of acts, young, old, incredible singers, unbelievable dancers. But what you two just did," he paused for a moment. "That was pure heart. And you reminded me of something very important, that it's never too late to chase what you love." Lola Mercy smiled, her tears still glistening. "Thank you, Simon," she whispered softly. Simon nodded, then leaned toward the golden buzzer button in front of him. The crowd gasped, the other judges turned toward him, wide-eyed. "And I think this moment deserves something special," he added. With that, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Instantly, the entire theater exploded into joy. The audience screamed, confetti cannons burst from both sides of the stage, and golden paper rained down from the ceiling like magic. Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy looked up, their hands trembling, their faces lit by the shimmer of gold. Tears streamed down Lola Mercy's cheeks as she clasped her hands together in disbelief. Lolo Ben covered his face, laughing and crying all at once. Heidi stood up, clapping above her head. "Yes! Yes! They deserve it," she shouted. Sophia blew a kiss toward the pair, her eyes filled with pride. Howie was cheering, his voice nearly drowned by the crowd. But the loudest cheer of all came from the audience, an ocean of people standing, waving, and crying with joy. Simon got up from his chair and walked onto the stage through the falling confetti. The golden lights surrounded him as he reached the Filipino duo. He extended his hand to both of them. "Congratulations," he said sincerely. "That was one of the most beautiful performances we've seen this season. You didn't just sing, you shared your story, your friendship, your spirit. You made the whole world feel what music truly means." Lola Mercy, shaking with emotion, replied in a soft voice, "We didn't think we could ever stand here. We just wanted to sing again, even if only once." Simon smiled. "Well, you didn't just sing once, you've created a moment the world will never forget." As the confetti continued to fall, the screen behind them displayed their names, Lolo Ben and Lola Mercy, from Cebu City, Philippines, while golden lights framed the stage. The crowd began chanting, "Philippines! Philippines! Philippines!" As the camera zoomed out to capture the breathtaking moment. Two elderly Filipino singers standing hand in hand beneath a rain of gold, living their dream in front of millions. The music swelled again, the same gentle piano intro of "The Prayer," but this time, the sound was joined by the audience's applause and cheers. The entire studio seemed to glow with warmth and inspiration. Simon stood beside them, smiling genuinely. "This," he said into the mic, "is why we love this show, because sometimes, the most unexpected people give us the most extraordinary moments." Lolo Ben looked at Lola Mercy and whispered in Filipino, "Tingnan mo, Lola, nangyari talaga." "See, Lola, it really happened." She smiled through her tears, replying softly, "Salamat sa Dios, Lolo." "Thank God, Lolo." And as the golden confetti continued to fall like blessings from the sky, the audience roared one final time, a standing ovation for two souls who proved that dreams never expire.